The Joy FM presents the Thursday Afternoon Chat with JR in the afternoon.
The story behind Bowman's Daughter is really it's based on a true story, and that is my own daughter. She met a guy when she was 16, cool guy, that was the life of the party, quickly fell head over heels for him. I never liked the boy. I saw something in his eyes that always bothered me, but I couldn't discourage her. I mean, I tried, but I wasn't successful. When she was 18, she was completely head over heels with this guy, and by this time, I knew that he was very bad news. I thought of him as, the potential monster, the monster who was going to take my child.
Right.
And I never blamed her for being deceived. I blamed him for deceiving. Sure enough, when she turned 18, she left home to live with this guy, and it absolutely terrified me. And, to make a long story short, I was in ruins for 60 days, and it was during this time when this monster had my child, and I knew that he was abusing her, and that she was too proud to call home, and there's no way that I could bring her home because it was her life. And legally, I tried. There's nothing I could do. I tried every avenue. There's nothing I could do except for stay home and just pray and hope and just break apart. And it was during this time that I began to, wonder if this is how God felt about us, the Father heart of God. And I said, I've got to write a story that explores the emotions of God for His daughter, for His child. And so out came this story, Bowman's Daughters, over the course of a number of years. Now, my daughter did come home. After 6 days, she called up weeping. And we came home. It was like a prodigal son story, only with our daughter. Yeah. And it turned out that she had been abused, and the guy was a monster. And we are so thankful that she came home unharmed. She's now actually getting married in June of this year. We're to a guy that we absolutely love. So I've written the whole thing up on a blog called "Are You Bowman's Daughters" on my website. And much more, a longer version of what I've just told you. Yeah. That's the story behind Bowman's Daughters.
How, as an author, would you say the times and technology, those two things, what are the things that are on your radar based on new technologies coming out, and it's a tougher world, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Technology has changed the way people read books. I mean, right now, Amazon has their Kindle out there. I read all my books now on a Kindle.
Is that electronic thing I see on the plane that people are holding?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. I like books, too. I like the feel of books.
Right.
But I think that, once they get these Kindles into schools, or devices like Kindles, and a grade schooler or a high schooler can carry 15 textbooks on one little book.
Crazy. And
just flip between them and make marks, and it's full color, and that's just the way that's absolutely going to happen, and it's going to happen within a decade. So that's one of the biggest things. That means that the distribution of books is going to go primarily electronic in the future. Yeah. And of course, the whole industry is scrambling to make sure that all the contracts work for that eventuality. You go to my website right now. There's a thing called the Underground. You can actually go there to the Underground on my website and read a book, read fresh content from me in a very unique way. It's just a new way of engaging story. Once you go electronic, you can layer in things like music. But fundamentally, reading, just pure reading, is a much more powerful experience for most people. You have to be patient enough and mature enough to actually read.
Right.
It requires your imagination, whereas watching a movie, which I love, by the way, I love movies. I'm a huge movie buff. But watching a movie is watching someone else's vision. It's watching a performance by someone else. It requires no imagination at all, actually, if you think about it. Very, very little imagination. Okay, so you are essentially watching someone else. It's pure. You're simply a spectator. Whereas when you're reading a book, it's a 50-50 proposition. It's half the author. He started to paint the picture. You finish the painting yourself. And your imagination is far more powerful than anything anybody can put on a screen. So lazy people don't like to read necessarily because they're not, or the younger generation doesn't read as much because they haven't grown up on it, although it is coming back, actually. Yeah. But people that take the invest their time into it, it's a much more rewarding experience for people that are willing to invest into it because they actually are doing it themselves. It's a very creative process.
The miracle of radio.
Squeezing a 260-pound guy into that little teeny-tiny speaker right there. Right there.
Afternoons with JR on the Joy FM.